Welcome to Creative Cooking. Today we're making a creamy chicken francaise, or as they would say in Italy, Pollo Cremoso Alla Francese. Now correct my Italian if you have to. So we're going to start off with one chicken breast that's been trimmed, nice and clean, and we want to cut it into little fillets like that. Don't worry, we're going to flatten them out a little bit, but we want to cut them thin to begin with so we don't have to pound the heck out of them. All right? So you should be able to get about 6 out of a chicken breast, sometimes 7. I think 3 pieces per person is just fine. And most people would put a piece of plastic over, but I'm using a very light hand doing this so that I don't get chicken pieces all over the place. So that's entirely up to you if you put plastic over them. I've learned to not pound so heavy when I do chicken or if I'm doing a pork tenderloin or something like that. And we also have a couple of eggs that we've beaten really well, and we want to season those eggs with some parsley. I got some fresh Italian flat leaf parsley here. I'm also going to add a little bit of salt and a little bit of pepper. I had considered using tarragon for this. I think that tarragon would taste very nice in here, but next time I'll make it with tarragon. All right, give that a quick mix, and that's it for that. It's very easy to make, very, very easy to make. I'm going to go ahead and season my chicken directly with some pepper and a little bit of salt. And we don't have to go too crazy because I'm going to do something a little backwards today. All right, and you'll see what I mean by that. I'm going to throw these into the eggs. And a purist would say, hey, Dave, you're not supposed to do that. You're supposed to put the chicken in the flour first and then in the egg. But that's okay. I put it in the egg, now I'm stuck with it, and I'll make it work. But to be honest, I've tried it both ways, and it really doesn't make a difference. So, if you make the same mistake, or if you do it intentionally, don't worry, it'll taste just as good. So we have some olive oil in a nice hot pan. I'm tossing in a little knob of butter. I always do that. I like the olive oil and butter combination. It's just better than just straight olive oil. And I'm going to go ahead and coat these with some flour. Right? That's unseasoned flour, by the way. It didn't need to be seasoned because we already added it to the eggs. See what I mean? You don't need to season the flour. That's entirely up to you. If you do it that way, that's fine. And we're going to go ahead, put them in the pan, and we're going to fry these at about 2 minutes per side. That's about right for something that's been pounded out to less than 1/4 inch thick. It doesn't take very long to cook. And usually when I cook something like this anyway, I don't necessarily time it because we're not shooting for medium rare or something like that. 2 minutes is good. Check it at 2. And if they're getting nice and browned on the other side, then you flip them over. But in the meantime, I want to put on some Parmesan cheese. It's purely optional. You don't have to do it. But I kind of like the way the Parmesan gets impressed into the whole thing when you flip this over. It melts and adheres in there with the eggs, so just a little extra touch. In a strange sort of way, you're making like a French toast, but you're making it with chicken. It's a strange way of looking at it, but that's what it is. And then after you flip it over, again, a couple of minutes, that's all it takes. All you have to do is check it. Bear in mind that I am using this at medium heat. You don't want it too hot or you'll burn the eggs. When they're done, just remove them to a plate. And you see that crusty stuff on the bottom, the fond? We don't want that today, not for this sauce. So you just run it under the faucet while it's still hot. It boils off, you clean it, bring it back to the stove, and start with the sauce. That's 3/4 cup of white wine. Any white wine will do. I believe this one was either a Pinot Grigio or a Sauvignon Blanc. Not that it matters. They're both good. And you want to reduce that down to about a tablespoon of liquid. Then you add your chicken broth. That's another 3/4 cups of liquid. All right? And we're also going to add the lemon juice. This is lemon juice going in. That's about 2 tablespoons. Not 1/4 cup like you see for the measure. That was half full. That's 2 tablespoons. You don't want to use much more than that. Otherwise, it'll be too sour. Now we'll go ahead and season it. And add some pepper. And a little bit of salt. And some parsley. Now normally I would use the parsley. I would put the parsley in at the end. not in the beginning like this, but I actually want the parsley to cook in there. And that's purely optional. You can either not use it, or you can use it at the end, but it does add some character to the sauce, some color. Especially if you throw it in at the end, it'll stay green. But that's not what I did today. So, and here we are. We're going to let that reduce to about half of what it was, or less. As you can see, as I tip the pan, that's only about 1/3 of a cup of liquid, right? 1/3 of a cup. So, cold butter. We have 1 full stick of cold butter cut into 8 pieces. We're going to go ahead and melt that into the liquid. And all we're really doing here is we're melting the butter, cold butter, into hot liquid. All right? And we got to keep it moving, and we got to just whisk it very gently. You don't have to be vigorous with this. What you are essentially doing now is creating an emulsion, just like what you do when you make a mayonnaise or a hollandaise sauce. You're creating an emulsion, so you don't want to cook it. In other words, the first half of the butter, I'm heating it up enough to make sure the first half of the butter melts. And then I'm going to remove it from the heat. And then we're going to slowly add the other 4 chunks of cold butter. There's enough residual heat in the pan and in the sauce to melt that second round of butter. Okay, so the heat is off. In fact, I'm going to lift this right off the stove because these glass top stoves, they stay pretty hot long after you shut them off. So I need to raise it, and I need to keep whisking. And I'm doing this in real time, in case you didn't notice. And it's because I think it's really important that you understand how to make this sauce, because it's probably the thing that people would screw up the most. Believe me when I tell you. Okay? Do not cook it. You will break the emulsion. Okay? So as you stir this in, that sauce is getting cooler and cooler. And that butter is melting very slowly. And everything will be suspended. When you take liquids and fats and you suspend them together, they emulsify and they become thick. And you're probably noticing that it's already starting to do that, see? It's no longer like a liquid. It's like a light sauce. Now, a purist would stop right there and say that is the sauce. But I like adding a little bit of heavy cream to it. It does a couple of things. It makes it velvety smooth. It lightens the color, and it actually adds to the thickness of the sauce, believe it or not. And after all, butter is made from cream, so it doesn't hurt to put a little bit of cream. So I think you like this better. I know I do. It makes it definitely creamier and nicer to work with. So, all right, so if you're going to serve this family style, you'd probably have twice as much chicken and twice as much sauce. You could put it on a serving platter, put some sauce over, but always reserve some. Always reserve some of that sauce. Don't put it all on there because you're going to need that for your pasta or whatever it is that you're going to serve it with. I like to sprinkle on a little bit of Parmesan cheese. Adds a nice flavor to it. But ultimately, you're going to serve it with something like a pasta. Whether you use fettuccine or use penne. But sometimes I get sick of penne. So today, I decided to use these bow ties. It's a nice imported brand from Italy. Nice texture, nice shape, and texture. Texture is very important with pasta. Why do you think they make it in so many different shapes? The way it holds sauce, the way it feels in the mouth, it all makes a difference. So feel free to experiment. Okay, and now we have that extra sauce that we reserved, and we're going to pour that over because we need it for the pasta. And how you present this is entirely up to you. But it is a delicious, delicious meal. Trust me. And I hope you give it a try. I really do. And I also hope that you come back each week for more great videos made for people who like to cook. Until then, bon appetit.